Well, hello, welcome to the new video. And this time in the autumn, late autumn, we have here the new Dacia Duster. And let's have a look at this. Let's admire the look of this car because it actually looks like a concept car. It looks fantastic, I have to say, this new generation. So let's have a closer look at the car. So we have this new light signature connected through the badge, through the front mask. Really good looking, particularly in the night. I really do like that. Then we have massive air curtain at the front, which is an important aerodynamic element. And also an aerodynamic element are these active flaps behind the front grille. So they've also been thinking about the aerodynamics, although the car and its shape and its ride height of 217 millimeters isn't quite aerodynamic, you know. Now let's have a look at the wheels. So we have 18-inch wheels here with a tire size of 215/60 R18. So quite a good and narrow tire, particularly for the winter. These are all-season tire of Continental all-season contact 2, or no, only all-season contact. Let's have a look at the suspension. So we have quite a small amount of positive caster geometry at the front, and yeah, let's go further rear. The wheelbase is at 2.65 meters, so it's slightly longer than the platform of Renault Captur on which it's based, which is interesting. On the right side, you have the fuel cap, and the fuel tank has a size of 50 liters volume for the fuel. And now that I'm here from the rear, let me talk you through the geometry. So we are running more negative camber at the rear, and also a toe in at the rear for the rear to rotate. And also in this particular car, as this is a four-wheel drive, 4x4, we have a multi-link rear axle. The front-wheel drive cars only, they get the solid torsion bar rear axle at the rear. And now we're looking at the car from the rear. We have these C signature lights. I mean, and again, it looks just fantastic in terms of design from the rear as well. Very quirky, very robust, very adventurous. I really do love the design of the new car. And also you have the sloping roof line with this prolonging spoiler. Let's go to the boot, which is somewhere around 456 or 458 liters of capacity. And what I like about the boot is that it's a more easy accessible boot than before. Although this part of it, in terms of height, it could be slightly better, but it's just more accessible, wider opening, and yeah, it just looks that you get more space in the boot than before. You also have, I think, double floor. Oh no, you have a full-size spare wheel in here, which is pretty cool. And a good rubber floor mat. You can also buy an optional tent for this car and take the car for adventures. So I think pretty cool in this regard as well. Now let me go from here and let me try the seating in the rear. And so you have a hidden door handle in terms of design. So it's positioned here. You open the door and off we go to sit in the car. And what we find is that it's actually very comfortable to sit in the new Dacia Duster. So there is just enough space for the knees of tall person, very good amount of space for the head, decent in terms of width, and in terms of comfort and practicality. You have some storage area here. You have two USB-C connectors for your children, of course, ISOFIX anchor points, and some two storage areas here in the door, as well as speakers. Yeah, well, now let's have a look at the engine. First, here is the new interior, as quirky as the exterior of the car. Really nice, but more of that when we go off and drive. So let me open the bonnet. And one more thing, here on this plastic is a recycled badge for this bit of plastic. So this car has loads of plastic that you can recycle. Renault has always been very good in this, that they were making cars that could be recycled for making new cars. Let's open the bonnet. So we have hydraulic lifters, which is fantastic, and it's always a thing with the Dacia Duster. So pretty cool already. And this engine, what we're looking at, is the only engine that you can get with a four-wheel drive. It's a new 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. It gives you 130 horsepower, 230 newton meters of torque, and it's a new engine. Its code name is HR12. And well, if you look at the engine bay, it looks quite clean, quite okay. It's positioned, of course, in front of the front axle, and yeah, it's supposed to also give the car a decent efficiency, but more about the engine and drivability in the drive. And just to let me talk you through the other engines, so you can get the typical 1.0 TC LPG with the indirect injection, which is also a great engine. Then you have this engine, and you also have the hybrid powertrain, which will be the one if you want some power and in city fantastic efficiency. So yeah, I guess that would be about it to the walk around of this car. Now let's take it further down the road and let's talk about how was the experience with this car. Oh, well, hello and welcome inside the new Dacia Duster. What a great looking car. And let's talk about the experience with the car. So first let me take you through the interior. So the first thing I'm going to mention is the seating position. I was really surprised how low you can adjust it. So you can see it's really low. The dashboard is slightly above you. The steering wheel has loads of adjustment. You can get it closer, you can get it up and down. So I really do like that. And there's a new steering wheel with the new logo, white logo. It has a really nice shape. It's a leather steering wheel, so that's really nice. And well, the design of the interior is fantastic. It just looks as rugged as the exterior of the car. It's also very practical and dependable. You have this holder for the phone, you have this case for the phone as well, and the wireless charging as well in this well-equipped car. 2 USB-C connectors, 12-volt socket in the front, 2 cup holders with a space for the key inside, and a really deep glove box, which is nice. And then also this car, as is a 4-wheel drive, you get this sort of all-terrain all-terrain response selector. So you have the options of eco, auto, which we are now. You have then snow. You have then what seems to be like a bumpy road, and you have lock. And in the middle of it, you can press it and you can go. There is a hill descent control. So really interesting change. And then to the display. So you have this new sort of a display for the driver, which I know already from the Dacia Jogger Hybrid. It's a really nice display. It has loads of it has 3 modes of design that you can choose, and on the right side there is a small element where you can check all sorts of information. So you can check the navigation, the eco monitor, you can check the angulation of the car, energy flow, distance, and the consumption of the car. And then you have this central screen, which has a really nice quality, really good infotainment, very easy to use, very easy to navigate. You have Android Auto, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is cool. And yeah, it's just very easy to use. And you can go into 360-degree camera, check the cameras. They aren't the highest quality as you might expect, but they are definitely usable in the off-road conditions. Or you can go here into the all-road info, and it's basically the same as on the driver's display. So it shows you the angulations of the car vertically and horizontally, and also shows you the percentage of how much do you use at the moment, the powertrain, where you get more of the power. Now it is to 99% front wheels, because we are in the auto mode and on the road, so it's a front wheel drive car basically. And then here on the left side you can very quickly turn off the assistance, turn off the stability system, put the headlights up and down, and turn off the start and stop system. So really nice. Yeah, I think that's about it to the interior. One more thing I'm gonna mention are these seats with this typical new Dacia upholstery, which is good in that you shouldn't sweat on it. But I have to say, in the winter like it is now, 3 degrees outside, I advise you to buy the heated seat and the heated steering wheel pack, because in the winter when you step inside the car after a long time, they are really cold, like leather seats. So I really do advise you that. On the left side you have the handbrake, and off we can go. Let me just let this car go, and off we go. So typical Dacia. First is really short, second is basically like the first gear, third is like the second gear, and off we go. So underneath the bonnet we have a new engine, and this new engine is the only option with which you can get at the moment the 4-wheel drive powertrain. It's a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder engine named HR12. This engine has a direct injection of the fuel. It has 130 horsepower, 230 newton meters of the torque, and is mated to this 6-speed manual transmission. Well, let me talk you about the engine. Well, what I didn't like about the engine quite is the drivability of the engine, because in order to drive it comfortably and sort of economically, you have to rev it out, because otherwise in between the 1 and 2000 RPM it vibrates quite a bit, and connected with this hard plastic interior, there is quite a lot of things already that vibrates in here. So in this regard, it wasn't quite the best engine. Also the torque range, it seems to me that is quite thin. It's somewhere around 1700 up to 3500 RPM. So I also wasn't very much impressed with this. But yeah, it's the only option now at the moment with which you can have a 4-wheel drive. But more, what I want to tell you is about the suspension and the chassis, because there has been a massive difference. So this car is built basically on the Renault Captur platform. It has slightly longer wheelbase, but oh my god, it improved the drivability of the car in the corners. I'm gonna show you here. So we're going here into the corners, and it's just great. Look at this. So we have a really nice steering. You can just go inside. Look at this, very precise. Leans onto the outer rear wheel as it should. I'm nice and centered in the car as well. There is a great amount of stability also, because in the four-wheel drive you get the multi-link rear suspension, whereas in the two-wheel drive you get a typical torsion bar suspension. So if you want more comfort and more stability in the corners, you should definitely also go for the four-wheel drive. It just drives really great on the road. And what I like about the chassis is that with unloaded car, it gets you a decent amount of information from the road. Really, the feedback is good. The body control is good as well. Really good body control. It doesn't float. It falls first on the rear and then lands on the front very softly. It's a really, really well-resolved suspension from this point of view. We have a well-judged braking, as I'm now braking hard. So good brake pedal. I really do like that. And yeah, it's just a pleasant car to drive. The only thing that is unpleasant in everyday driving is, I would say, the clutch, because it's so light and connected with a very short first gear. You know, sometimes for the first gear it's like too jerky, and then if you try to move in the second gear and you don't give it really that much of revs, the car can die on you. So that, yeah, getting a move on can be quite annoying sometimes with this clutch, which I think is quite typical. Yeah, but the great thing is you have all of the typical assistance here in the car as in other cars. So that's quite nice, because the Dacia Duster is still a reasonable car in terms of price, and I'm very surprised by this, because the design of the car really looks like a concept car. It just looks fantastic parked somewhere. When you look at it on the road, it looks fantastic, and I'm really surprised that they've managed to basically keep the price very low. So that's pretty cool. And maybe after we leave the village, let me try and show you the engine, how it goes. So let me slow down. We're at 2000 RPM, full throttle, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so somewhere after 3500 it sort of dies, the torque. And yeah, but I mean it's actually quite decent for everyday drivability and everyday needs. It's a decent powertrain. It gets you an acceleration. You can overtake with it quite safely. So I would say, yeah, it's quite alright, this powertrain. And then let's go to the fuel efficiency, of course, of the car. So it's a tall car. It doesn't look that it has the best aerodynamics, although it still has quite nice aerodynamic elements, like the active flaps in front of the radiator, which is really nice and cool. And so let's go to the efficiency. So I'm looking at 6.8 liters at 400 kilometers average during the whole week, which includes sporty driving, it includes motorway, it includes city, a lot of cold starts, a lot of short cold drives. So I think this is really, really good fuel efficiency. And just before, when I joined the motorway, it was 6.7. So this sort of efficiency with this engine, with being a four-wheel drive car, of course now we're a front-wheel drive when we're driving on the road, but having the ability to go four-wheel drive and to go off-road, it is incredible. I think this is fantastic efficiency, and you have 50-liter fuel tank, which gives you a really good range with this consumption. So yeah, I really think it's fantastic. Maybe if you want an even better car, you should go for the 1.0 TC LPG powertrain with this car. This one is only front-wheel drive, but it gets you a decent amount of range for this car. So yes, I think that would be about it, about the drivability of the car. So I think it's time to go through the likes and dislikes, starting with the dislikes as always. So the first dislike would be the engine. I mean, it's not a bad engine as such, but it's just strange that it's still a 3-cylinder when we have a 3-cylinder 1.0. And I just didn't like the drivability of the engine. I didn't like that the amount of vibrations it gives you in between the 1 and 2000 rpm, that you cannot drive it in this rev range without vibrating. So yeah, and also I didn't like that the torque range and basically the power range is quite small. I would like an engine that likes to breathe more and that accelerates more with the revs. So yeah, I mean, it's an alright engine for everyday drivability, but I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. I would probably choose the 1.0. It's a really good 3-cylinder. It has indirect fuel injection, so it's going to be extremely reliable for you. That is the engine that I would probably take if I didn't need the 4-wheel drive. If you do need, of course, it's very reasonable to take this engine. Then another thing, but you expect it from a Dacia, is the sort of amount of rattle in the interior already that you get. Well, yes, it's a Dacia, so it has a hard touch plastic interior, and this holder for the phone was rattling, something over there was rattling, some plastic was rattling here on the motorway and on the bumpy road. So, but you just expect it, you know, with the time and these connections with the hard touch plastic, they are just going to rattle. Another small thing would be the sound isolation. Although I measured a very decent 63 decibels on the motorway, subjectively it just feels on the motorway quite noisy from these A-pillars and from the mirrors. And for the typical comfort, for the leading the conversation and listening to the music, I just think that it's not quite the best resolved. It really reminds me a little bit of Toyota cars in this regard. So it's not bad, it's just a little bit more noisy for leading a calm conversation, right? But then let's go to the likes, and there are plenty of likes. So the first, of course, is the design. The car looks fantastic. It reminds people the sort of Land Rovers, the Range Rovers, and the Jeeps and tough cars. And it really is a tough. It is a tough car. You can go take it hard off-roading, put any of these modes and go into hard off-road. It has a very good ground clearance. Really really good design, and also the artistic element of the design. It looks like a concept car. Really fantastic. Then what I like is the chassis, much improved compared to the previous generation. You can take this car cornering, it's still a comfortable car, but it gives you a decent amount of information about the road. It has a much more precise steering than before, with which you can control the car much better. The sitting position itself is much better. It's just a much more pleasant car to drive, it seems to me. And this thing that I told you about the cornering, you can actually have a bit of fun with this car in the corners, particularly also because you have the multi-link. But if you opt for a different tire size, so you don't have a big sidewall of the tire like here, like there is 60 sidewall of the tire, but if you go for a smaller sidewall like 50, you can have as good ability in the corners as you get with the Renault Captur, which is very decent for a small crossover. So you can have also decent fun with this car. So I really do like this element. And well, then I like the dependability and the ruggedness of the car, and also the spaciousness of the car. So you have a decent amount of space in the rear. You have the 2 USB-C connectors for the children to charge their iPads and phones, and also the access to the boot. Compared to the previous generation, it seems more accessible. The boot opening is much bigger. It looks much wider, much more easier to put things in and out. I just like the boot very much. Yeah, really practical. And you can get this optional equipment. You can buy the tent into the boot and go for an adventure with your car and sleep over in the tent. So yeah, really good. I mean, fantastic in this element. And last but not least is the pricing. It's still a reasonable priced car for the amount of changes that they've done. So yeah, I guess that would be it to the new Dacia Duster 4-wheel drive with multi-link at the rear. Really good car, really good car for what it is, for the money. and it's an ideal car for loads of adventure. And if you're after a car like this or just a cheap SUV, definitely you should go for a test drive, because really is fantastic. It doesn't have any competitor really in terms of its feel and this ruggedness. So really fantastic. Well, that would be about it to this video of the new Dacia Duster. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, well, keep watching, keep subscribing, because more videos are coming on very soon, and I hope to see you in the very next video. In the meantime, take care of you and goodbye.